studio and all that pretty much didn't miss a beat. It deteriorated considerably from Walt's ideas at this point.
Yeah.
They made some movies he would not have allowed to be made. He was a very straight guy.
Yeah.
But you can't argue with the success that they've continued to have. And then placing more and more Disneylands around the world certainly has made a lot of money for them and stuff. So it's a very, very successful organization, and there's, on that regard, they're still pretty much running on the ideas that Walt had. So I think his impact is still there to quite a degree.
Any questions for Wade? Lisa?
I just wanted to tell you, I really appreciate you coming here to talk to us today. A lot of the people in my group anyways know that I go to Disneyland almost weekly.
Yeah.
I have and I have always said if there was one person ever that I could meet, it would be Walt Disney. I'm the hugest fan. So you saying what an amazing person he was means so much to me. Thank you so much for coming to just to reaffirm what I already believed in my heart.
And some of the negative things that have gone out about him, I have read, and it's almost broken my heart to read something like that. Try to put somebody down when they've done so much,
Right.
and done it for all of us.
Exactly. It's so special.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I got a question there.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
You mentioned visionary for Walt Disney. What would you say would be two or three other top strengths that he had as an individual or as a businessman?
Well, I guess one of the biggest strengths he had is what we all strive for, is he had plenty of money to do what he wanted to do. So if I could be a great visionary without any money, nobody'd ever know it. And that's where I am today. But the fact is that Walt's management style was hands-on, get to know the people, know who's in the slots, because he didn't want somebody that's going to, take a complete and utter outer space run at him, unless he pretty much had figured out that this guy was ironclad in this area. And it didn't mean that he couldn't be a far-out thinking guy. That might have been exactly what he was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But he was always understood people, where they were, what they wanted, how they were, and that's why he wanted me to build his locomotive. He knew that I would build it, same as I had been building a locomotive for her dad. It would be, as near perfect certainly as it needed to be.
Yeah.
And that run, it's still running, as a matter of fact. And
Go ahead.
I'll just ask, what kind of guy? I mean, obviously he's a stand-up guy. He did really good things for you guys too. Was he always that kind of a guy where it was like, even in his managing style, if he asked a question, would it be something like, okay, we'll figure it out, or was it like, hey, we have to get this done, let's do this? I mean, or what was it about his personality that people would work for him? Because I mean, it's one thing to be a visionary, you can do things, but because he had so many people that would work for him, what do you guys think it was about his personality that everybody's like, yeah, we'll do it for you, we'll do it for you?
okay, I can tell you, he never expected more out of you than he would try to do for himself. And he also had a lot of people working for him, but he always had 2 or 3 projects that were in the forefront. And those he would really be concentrating on. But he would figure that all the other things that were going on already had all been hand-picked, and those people would get their job done. And they would want to do that because as soon as that was over, he'd come up with some other thing, and they'd want to stay and work on that. So he was very organized, but he was not a taskmaster at all. He wanted you to work within yourself to get it done, and by the time he hired you to do a job, he would know that you could work within a time frame that he had in mind or not. And if not, that might kill it, or he might expand the time just because he liked the way you were approaching it. So
I have one thing else to add to that. He listened. He was a listener.
Yeah, that's very true. He was a great conversations, he'd listen to me.
You know, I mean, like, for instance, if you guys were having a conversation, he wouldn't be like, oh, we have this going on, we got this going on. Now he was the guy who
He
would
was-
sit there
you
and
could-
observe and listen.
Yes. Yeah, he would listen to you, and then if he had something to say, he would quietly say it, or he'd say, I think,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah, he was very mellow. I mean, again, he was so wealthy that none of it made any difference.
Well, what did he do before, this might be a stupid question, but what did he do before Disney World? I mean, how did he get his initial money?
Well, he, way back, he actually delivered newspapers with his dad.
Okay.
And they worked hard. I mean, because his dad, being a man, that was the way they were making a living for the household, and so they had 3 or 4 times as many newspaper routes as the average kid would that was out, pedaling on his bicycle. But Walt got into being a reporter for a while for a newspaper, I believe, in something like Kansas City or somewhere like that. The funny thing is, though, we never talked much about those kinds of things because we were always involved with the Railroad Club or with Disneyland or something. I even helped build 2 of the sugarcane engines, they call them. In Hawaii, in the sugarcane fields, they use locomotives to move vast amounts of sugarcane. Well, we got sugarcane engines from there, and they were the right scale. They were 3-foot scale tracks, and so we took them down to a place